it'd be fun. Man, this thing's bright. Ooh. It's faded. Just a lot of fading. This might take a couple washes. So, yeah, it's just real dirty. So, yep. Probably go ahead and get started here washing it. Let's see here. Let's see, it's a little poppage right here. Scrub all this stuff up. This hood though, boy, she's rough. Oh, ooh, little barf action here. I bet that's what that is. Maybe it's coat. Golly. Shoot, I about burnt through a whole 3M wheel just trying to get this little bit off, so I might just try some wet sandpaper or something on that. Alright, go ahead and get started. You'd have thought a building fell down because I was so confused as to what happened. As you can see there, the wind was raging, the ladder fell. Okay, so moving forward, I only did half the hood. I ended up using Rage and going to the quarter car wash and breaking up most of this. But you can see here, I'm clay barring it. After using Rage, and I'm using my other hand to chase the areas I just did to make sure I picked up everything. So, what ended up happening is I spent way too much time on that other side of the hood. That probably took, I don't know, an hour. It just wasn't being efficient. The clay bar wasn't picking it up, it was getting gummed up. The soap wasn't picking up, the degreasers, the acid I tried using, nothing was getting it. Tried the quarter car wash, that helped a little bit. Ended up having to just use a ton of elbow grease. But then moving to the roof is where I had to kind of start getting creative, and we'll see that here on the next clip. I'm using a magic eraser and this all-purpose cleaner. It's awesome. It is actually awesome, but it's pulling this stuff off. You can see here I haven't hit over here. I don't recommend anyone trying this unless it's an older vehicle that just hasn't been really well maintained. Obviously I would try using a clay bar or some other chemicals first to see if that would work. If none of those work, you can do a little test section with this. The problem with doing this is that it's acting like sandpaper, the eraser is, because it's picking up all those contaminants. So what I did was try to rinse it out as much as possible, and then I had that rag there to wipe as much away, but you're really just scuffing the clear coat up a lot. So you could fix this with compounding and polishing. Ideally you don't want to have to do that. More than likely if you're removing all this stuff you're going to do that anyways, but try a clay bar first, try some different soaps. If none of those are working, then try this. And like I said too, if it's an older vehicle that maybe you don't care as much about, then go for it. This was just one of those things. There was nothing else I could do. Fortunately, it was on the roof, so nobody's really going to see it. But ideally, I would want to try to find a different thing to use, process to use next time. But this did work out really well. I was impressed by it. Once again, just try all the other steps first, and if none of those are working, then maybe go for this, but and just try to keep it on the roof so nobody sees it. But it did work out really well, and you can see here there's not too much hazing. So the engine bay was a pretty big job in and of itself. So what I did was I started taking a couple of the plastic pieces off. I was going to remove the windshield wipers. Unfortunately, I didn't have a puller, so what I did was just kind of raise that plastic piece up that was holding all the leaves in and just started to chase it out with my hands and a screwdriver. So here's how I recommend doing an inch bay. A lot of people probably get scared about this. There's nothing to be scared about. The biggest thing is not using a pressure washer. You want just a regular water hose. Using some regular degreaser and a soft scrub brush. Just kind of working all the plastic areas and hoses, trying to stay away from the electrical stuff. Also using my little detail brush to hit the more intricate areas. Obviously staying away from electrical stuff. You'll be fine if you do hit it, but ideally just kind of stay away from those areas. Just kind of go back and make sure you get all the soap off all the areas you scrubbed, and then after that you're going to want to shut the hood and let the car run for 10 to 15 minutes till it dries out. So that's the aftermath of vacuuming. When I'll start shampooing and stuff like that, I'll flip to the foam filter. It holds up a lot better. I recommend buying that if you're going to do something like this. The way I'm doing it with a brush and a shop vac is kind of like the old school way of doing it. Something I will mention, make sure whatever soap you're using, you want to water it down. Carpet's different. It tends to hold on to suds. So just kind of be careful that you can kind of experiment with different soaps. I've used car soaps before. Once again, I just watered them down really well, not like any sort of specialty soap, just like a really simple car soap, and then just like maybe a cap or 2 caps full. You could do something like that. This is what I've been using, a magic eraser and some all-purpose cleaner, as well as a detail brush. As you can see, this like light tan type trim, I don't know what you would call this, almost kind of skin color, gets stained real easy, and the microfiber only picks up so much, as well as the detail brush. So these magic erasers I've found work really well at removing stains out of these seats. You can see over here, this is what I've done. This is what I have, and I'll show you an after here in just a second. Interior came out pretty good. Went over it probably about 3 times, then I hit the windows. It's just one of those things you just kind of have to keep going over it and over it and over it. Eventually it will get to a point where you can't go anymore. I'd say I'm approaching that point. So I had to do a little bit of experimenting, but I ended up just deciding I was going to do perfect finish with a white pad. Now normally you would use that combination at the end of your paint correction. That would be like your last stage. I wasn't doing a paint correction on this. I just wanted to gloss the paint up and kind of clean the windows and oxidize areas up like this, which as you can see, that combination did a really good job, cleaned them up. And I'm glad the glass came out like it did, because I didn't have to get compound out or anything. Those cleaned up really well too. So everything polished out really easy for me, which wasn't what I was expecting on this. But thankfully that's how it worked out. And it definitely glossed the appearance up. I didn't need to sit there and spend an hour on a panel for a vehicle like this. We just wanted to make it look nicer. And I mean, that's exactly what happened, and after spraying some sealant on it, it really changed. And in this next clip you can kind of see the difference of an area of what I polished and what I didn't. So just kind of showing the difference here. That side on the left there is what I haven't polished, and what's right over here is what I have. You can see here it's not picking up every swirl. It's really just kind of bringing the gloss back into the paint. That was pretty much my goal. Wasn't going to spend like some crazy, you know, hour and a half on a panel like I did on that T-Bird back there, or the Subaru, just sprucing her up. Paint's coming out really good. I'm going over it with the stuff called Bead Maker. This is probably my favorite spray sealant. I used to be really against spray waxes and stuff, but I found this is really good. The technologies, I guess, since when I was 18 versus now is just it's just come a long way. So I really like this stuff. I'll use this on pretty much any vehicle. Wax has its place for filling in swirls and stuff, but this stuff works really good. So I'm happy with the results. I'm glad it's over now. Got some little touch-up stuff to do. Probably do some trim restoration, maybe. Shine the tires up. Just kind of touch some stuff up. That's about it, though. Came out really good. I've been using Chemical Guy's Silk Shine for probably the last 3 months, and I really like this stuff. I'll use it with the microfiber block like this. Works really well. I like to kind of work it into the tire, and it seems to kind of stay there a little bit longer. I don't like spraying stuff directly onto it because it ends up just going everywhere, and then you got to go back and wipe it all off, and to me that's just a pain in the butt, and it ends up just smearing everywhere. This also kind of keeps it from flinging too. You just kind of have to sit there and work it for a little bit. But another good thing about Silk Shine is I can use it for, 15 different things, not just tires. Fender wells, exterior plastics, interior floor mats, engine bays, whatever. So that was one of the reasons I bought it, especially in a gallon, is I knew I could use it for a lot of different things. Is really cost effective, and, I didn't want to skip areas like faded plastic when I'm cleaning the car, but I don't want to charge $40 or $50 to that. So that's why I use this stuff. Alright, well, nearing the point of being done here. Finally got some dressing on the tires. Started raining a little bit, it's not a big deal. I'll come back and chamois that all off, but man, this thing really came back to life. Just needed some time with it. So I probably got, 6-7 days in this thing. Pretty cool. Still got to do the trim and touch up the interior like I said back there a little bit ago. That's it though. I'm going to go get some tools while it's raining, and I'll come back and show them back up here real quick. Pretty cool. So I ended up pulling out the whole clip, and as you can see here, this is pretty crazy. All the water that is staying in these headlights, and that was not from me. That was just from, the I guess silicone failing. I mean, that is a lot of water holding up in there. And I mean, normally with headlights like that, you can't do anything because it's inside of the plastic. So I ended up having to get pretty creative with that, and I'll show you here in a minute. But I just kind of wanted to show you their current condition and how much water was in there. I'm really impressed with how these came out, and I'll show you my process here in a second. But I ended up just pulling out the whole front clip. I found it was easier just to go ahead and take the grill off and everything, and to pull these headlights out. So yeah, let's go take a look and see what I did here. Alright, so basically what I did was pour some degreaser in here. Actually, I sprayed some degreaser in here, and then I filled it up with some water, and just kind of pushing it back and forth like this just to kind of work all the mold and stuff out of it. I think that's what's in there, mold or dirt. Anyways, just going to keep kind of doing this for a little bit and let it clean out, and then I think I'm going to make some sort of a tool to get in there and kind of swab out the side, and then I'll end up sanding these and polishing them up, and just trying to make them as good as I can. So ideally, if this is mine, I'd probably just go ahead and get new ones, but that's not the case. This isn't mine. I'm just trying to help this person out. So here we go. So I'm going to use Soft block can start out with 1500. Normally you want to go with like 1000, but this is all I've got right now, and then I'll work up to 2500. And then I've got some like soapy water here. Alright, so you can tell as I just did this one. I'm using Wizard's Mystic Cut. This is like a good cutting compound. Kind of a polish too. This is like a finishing pad here. It's a lot softer. And this is like a cutting pad. These are like some old chemical guys pads I use, and I don't use those on paint or anything, just headlights. But yeah, it's a pretty good difference there. I took a giant zip tie and basically just kind of slung it through a little crease here in the wood, and that way I can just kind of run this, and it's got a little lock right here, because when you have them pulled out, it's hard to kind of control the pad and the headlight. So usually you do them when they're still on the car, but I pulled them out because all the moisture inside, I was trying to get all that out. But I'm happy with that. It's a lot better. So we'll go ahead and do the other ones. I'll show you kind of how this works. Alright, it's kind of what we got to work with here. Alright, just kind of put some on here. And then I'll just kind of like press it against the pad. Kind of primes the pad a little bit, smooths it all over. So it's still a little foggy here. I think I'm going to go and I tried to skip and there's still some scuff, so I'm going to go back and do that again. Normally you're going to need like a stiffer pad and then a softer pad, like this one, like I just used. Go ahead and try this again though. Might take a couple times. Alright, flop back over to this again. Pretty cool. A little difference here again. And as you can see, this wheel's spinning counterclockwise. Do it since it's oscillating that way. You want to make sure you kind of put it and bring it towards you. So as you can see here, the grill's popping out. End up taking a long zip tie and a glue. It's a JB Weld glue. And that didn't work. So I tried probably 5 different things, and then I eventually just pulled the whole front clip off. As you can see here, I hadn't done the headlights yet, so that's when I decided to go ahead and do that to the headlights as well. So what ended up working was I took the original JB Weld tubes and a sheet metal clamp and basically just caked it on back there. And what it was were the edges, there were kind of like rounded off or like hollowed out inside of the grill, so I wasn't getting glue around the edges, which is where I needed to have the JB Weld. So when I ended up doing that, I gave it at least a day to cure, and I haven't had an issue with it since. So that's what ended up working, was just regular JB weld and a sheet metal clamp. The zip tie would work fine. I think it's better just to go ahead and get those vice grips if you got them. It's a lot easier to work with. You could use a C clamp too, but yeah, this was like a total fail. I just figured I'd show you this, and what actually ended up working to fix the grill. So this is like the last thing I did. I wrapped it up after this. So use solution finish, hit the Nerf bars and all the like weather stripping and stuff like that. So before you do this, you want to wipe it down with alcohol. Obviously wash the car or truck or whatever you're doing first. Get it all kind of cleaned up. Wipe it down with alcohol. You want heat because the plastic, I guess the pores open up when the sun's out, kind of like skin. Then you just kind of start applying this stuff however you want to. You can get high spots and stuff like that. That's why you kind of go back and knock it down with the microfiber. This stuff works well. It's not the end-all be-all. I'm starting to figure that out. I did somebody's car recently, and I noticed that it had already gone away. It lasted probably 5 months, 6 months maybe. It's one of those things you have to consistently reapply, and eventually I think it stays where it needs to be. It being one of those like really porous things, plastic, tends to soak it up. I've had really good luck with this stuff, though. It's a lot better than any sort of tire shine or dressing you're going to use. It doesn't attract dust or debris or anything like that like a dressing's going to. So I really like that about it, and it applies on anything. I mean, I'm using it on plastic here than rubber. I've used it on metal before. If you look back in a couple videos ago, I used it on the Hummer's bumpers. It's really good stuff for the most part. There is no perfect product for this stuff, but anyways, yeah, I mean, it's really simple. Alcohol, the solution finish. I mean, you get those little paint foam brushes anywhere. They're really cheap. I find it's best to just get those and rip the stems off of them and use them like that. You can cut up a foam pad from Meguiar's and a triangles. That works too, especially for the intricate areas, but definitely use the sun to your advantage, or have a heat gun. Either or, like anything, prep is everything. So if you prep the surface really well, I probably could have prepped this a little bit more, but I was pretty much just ready to be done with this thing, and it accepted it well. It was doing everything I wanted it to. So that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching.